Oh, and I think they have.
And it puts it on Zoom and YouTube. Because we have some people that are YouTube, they got it all figured out and they have it saved. And so then when we went to Zoom, there's a lot of people that don't want to deal with the Zoom and logging in and all that stuff. They just want to sit and watch it.
So
So-
next week, I'm gonna have to have you work with me when I check that out. I do my brain maybe, yeah. Okay, it's 10:02, September 6th, special session for a discussion on our water. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So. Which one do you want to just start?
You want to go first, Sandy?
Sure, then I'll just kind of give a summary.
Andy from Nico.
And everybody's on camera, so you guys don't have to do the whole stand thing, just because this is pretty chill. You've got a lot of paperwork in your laps.
So we've, in front of you, you have a copy of the plans and specifications and the cost estimate, construction cost estimate for the project. That has also been submitted to OHA, the State Drinking Water Services, and to Business Oregon for their review as the funding agency. And so also in front of you, you have kind of a cost estimate summary, which is our latest cost estimate for the construction phase of the project. That includes the construction contingency, and then the various other components of that will be needed for the construction phase, the construction engineering, grant administration, federal labor standards compliance, and environmental review and legal. So we, as you recall, the project entails, a new storage tank at the main tank site. And that was bigger than the original, estimated storage tank size because we couldn't put a new tank at the upper tank site. So we made the main tank site storage tank a little bit bigger. We added a booster pump station, which is inside an addition onto the existing building there. And then it also includes a generator and transfer switch so that when the power goes out, the generator kicks on and powers the site. And then also included in the project is at that site is an outlet flow meter so that the flow that's being used by the city from the storage tanks is measured continuously. And then there's a pressure reducing valve station so that the water that's stored in the upper zone can feed down to the lower zone during an emergency, such as a fire flow. And then also there's water meter replacement throughout town, a component of the project, and then water transmission main replacement along the highway. So those are the main components of the project. Because of rising construction costs, the cost to do all of those improvements, we're estimating is about 3.9 million. And so if we pare back to just the focus on the tank site improvements, we believe that the construction phase can get the $2.5 million construction budget.
So that's kind of our limitation is we're applying to the block grant. Now, because we got the emergency money, we would normally only have $2.1 million to spend because they would subtract the design money out of that. But because we got special money, we've got the whole $2.5 million, but we only have $2.5 million. And the feedback from Business Oregon, I propose two alternatives of how to deal with this. Either the city gets more money right now, or the city reduces the project size and gets under 2 million, 2.5 million, right? So that you can do everything. There's a whole project. We can fix compliance. We can replace the tank, the main issues with just that chunk of money. However, you also have this other parts of the project that have been designed. And the way that it works is Business Oregon wants you to build these things that they've paid for to be designed. They're willing to give you some flexibility. Normally, I've never seen them do this before, where they're willing to let you drop project elements, get the block grant. The feedback I've gotten is that if we can get an application and this money's yours, but we have to make it work for Business Oregon. So what they would like you to do is to apply for the $2.5 million block grant with one project that fits in that, and then also apply for a loan to do some of these other elements. And that's kind of a big question that Andy and I had is how much of it do you want to do? How important is it? And then also a question for the water meters is, do they actually work? And are they just not red?
The ones we have,
Yeah.
do you guys know, Jeff, or,
Not all of them, not all of
and
them.
not everybody has them either, do they?
No,
Everybody has them? Okay.
So everybody has them, but they don't all work.
yeah, and then not all of them. I mean, we haven't been putting the meter in because, when we're putting in a new service, we've been putting in, just a bypass pipe, not even a meter, because we're not reading water. We're charging by the month.
So their Business Oregon is going to do you guys a real solid and say that they'll give you block grant money and you can take the meters out of the block grant project, but you have to have 100% functioning water meters soon. So at the very least, we need to apply for a loan to replace some number of these water meters. Can't figure out exactly, like at the end of all this, the city needs to be reading its meters and billing out for usage. So however we get to there, we got to get to there. But the water main replacement, you could wait till later. So kind of the bare bones is you're going to have to get a loan application in for about $700,000 for those water meters.
The thing is, though, on the transmission line, is that part of this block grant?
Well, the way we have it set up, it's an additive bid schedule, so in order to do all the project improvements, it's gonna be about 3.9 million is what we're estimating. And
To do the
so-
whole thing?
To do the whole
Mhm.
thing, so what we would recommend to hit.
Because I think it's $500 some thousand that we're looking at for just the transmission line.
Right,
Yeah, it's about 600,000 for the transmission line, 600,000 for the water
Right.
meters.
and that, the water meters, that includes complete replacement of all the meters in town that we have and upgrading to a radio read metering system that's much quicker and easier to read than the touch wand or,
Because
manual.
our water meter box is a full installation, so reading the meters, it'll be pulling out all the installation out of every one of those.
It would take many hours.
It would take a couple days.
So, I mean, to me, spending loan money for water meters that can be read and save time and effort, to me, that seems like a pretty good use of loan money. I mean, you have to. If you want 2.5 million, you're gonna have to go get a loan to install the water meters. So it's really just a question of how much loan do you guys want? Or do you want to just shelf the whole project? And I know that sounds harsh, but that's kind of the reality.
And that's a 50/50 loan or.
So it'd be 50/50 up to $1 million. So if we go over $1 million, you're capped at $500,000 forgiveness. So that's why if you see on that sheet I gave you, and these numbers don't line up exactly because Andy and Robert kind of redid some of the numbers here, but it'll give you an idea. I assumed when I put this together that Business Oregon was going to make you guys do the water meters right now, but they're saying we can push that off and just do the tank. So I looked at what's it going to cost to do the tank and the meters, and that's scenario A plus B, which gives you about a $1.1 million gap. So for that, you get about a 50/50 loan. But when you look at the 1.7 to $1.8 million gap, then you're looking at a $1.2 million loan and like $500,000 extra grant. So I kind of did some rough numbers. What you're looking at is between probably, $750 to $17 a month rate increases per connection, which is, 18, that's a lot. That's pretty crazy. 750, it's still too much, but maybe a little more palatable.
Yeah, we didn't like it when we
Are those
raised it all.
manual reading of the meters, or do they come in here and you can read them off the computer by pulling up, or do you have to manually go out and read them?
Just drive by them, I think, right?
Yeah, on the radio read, the way that we've set it up in the plans, it's a drive-by, so that there's a drive-by, a unit that goes in the pickup truck, and as they drive by the street, it just pulls the readings in.
And then shoot right through the computer.
Yeah, and then that's hooked to the computer, and so that just automatically feeds into the city's billing
It
software.
won't be QuickBooks. You'll have to upgrade.
Yeah, you'll have to upgrade to a compatible billing software that's compatible, but those costs are built into.
And this unit's gonna work with the meters being 1 meter, 1 meter, 1 meter, and you can still identify each meter.
Yeah, each one has its own code, or
Okay.
they can identify, which meter's which. That's associated with a specific account.
Is the software included with the meters in this?
Yeah, the software for the meter is there. Now, the city may need to update the billing software. And so that I think would be included with the contingency. So we'd have to look at.
If you guys need a new computer or something like that, they'll make it, the readers will get read, it'll spit out to some software on a computer, the software will be purchased. But to get that water meter reading software to talk to your billing software is gonna be where you might have to get something.
Because we checked with the meter people, and their system is not compatible with QuickBooks. So
What does such software cost?
You know, I don't have that off the top of my head. I would think it's, you know, probably around 10,000 or so.
Yeah. And it's included in the grant though,
Right.
to buy
Yeah.
that stuff. It's all part of the upgrade of the meters.
So on the loan that business board is talking about, what is the interest percentage on that? loan?
It's probably gonna be between 1.5 and 2.5. That's very well.
And what's the time frame that we have to do like a loan? You said that they aren't pretty closest to.
We're in a tricky position where it's kind of a gray area. They want to give you guys flexibility, but I really need a decision coming out of this meeting to go put an application together and at least get the process started so that they see that the city's bought into making this happen and isn't just trying to play business Oregon, get your 2.5 million and kick the rest of it down the road.
They drop the loan.
Yeah.
We want to recommend that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I'm stuck on this transmission line because back in the day, I talked to Andy about doing a well.
Mhm.
Is it possible to do the meters and maybe a well grant as one instead of the transmission line?
There's as many possibilities as you guys want to spend money on to do your water system. We want to add a well, sure. They're going to have to design it. They're going to have to go out and study where to put it. That's going to cost money before they even start designing it. So what you kind of got to think about now is where we are in the process. They have finished 100% this project. So to go back and design anything new,
Including the transition.
including the transmission line replacement up to the campground. Doesn't go through the campground, which I know you also want to do. So, I mean, in my thought, as a counselor that doesn't have to make a decision on rates and then face the ratepayers, I would say, let's get a loan together to finish your whole transmission line. Let's get the whole thing replaced. But I mean, that's probably going to be another, $1 million or something. I mean, so now we're talking about not only do we need a loan for the meters, but now you're talking about needing a second loan for the water transmission line replacement. But I mean, everything I understand is it's a very crucial part of your infrastructure and it's prone to failure, so.
Well, I was just wondering if we get where, if you're going to do a 50-50 for $1 million, if we can do another block grant.
We can't do another water block grant. It'll be 5 years after we close out this project until you can do another one. Then your money will get renewed. So it'll be about 7 years from now, 7.5 years from now, when we'll have another 2.5 million for the water system.
Okay.
And there are some more competitive loans. We could try to go for a drinking water revolving loan fund. Loan, they just take a lot longer. So the water wastewater is the fastest one to get, and it will also be a good 50-50, forgiveness up to $1 million. The drinking water one could give you a better deal, but it's going to take potentially 9 months to get that all sorted out. So I would kind of suggest we apply for both, unless you guys really just don't have an appetite for more loan than you need to get the water meters done. But if you want to tackle the water main line replacement, I think the drinking water fund would be a good secondary option for that.
So you're saying you would apply for both of them, and see which one you got, or?
Potentially, you'll get the water wastewater loan and you'll get the drinking water loan. It's just a matter of how good will the terms be on the drinking water loan. We don't know. And there'd also be some savings if we were able to put the water meters in while we're doing all the other work, right? Have one contractor out here to mobilize once, do it then. So it could be more expensive the longer you wait to do these other elements too. So.
So, choices, you're all quiet.
Nobody wants to make that
Big
much.
numbers. Well,
The thing is though, is if we take out if we put on the wayside though of we need to do our meters. So do we need to what do we really need to do? If we're going to try to do the meters at the same time, are we going to put in and try to do another 50-50 grant right now? Is that what you want?
My recommendation, what seems the most reasonable to me is to save the water main replacement for later.
Okay,
And to go put the water meters in to apply for about, I would say maybe there's also a question of the contingency. So on this project that they've brought down to 2.5 million, they've taken out about 2.2% from the contingency. So my suggestion would be get a loan to make that contingency whole at 10% and also replace your meters. So what would that be? Maybe 700 grand, 750?
Yeah, something like that.
So put in a loan application tomorrow for 750,000 from the water wastewater fund for water meter replacement and extra contingency. And then we put in the block grant for 2.5 million. We'll find out about that in December. You'll also find out about the water wastewater loan. It'll be committed by then probably. So then in March of next year, we're bidding out a $3.3 million one project. But we have to do this game where we have one project that fits, because if we don't have a project that fits the block grant, we won't get it. So.
And the good thing about how the project is designed is we have various components that we can bundle together to fit
And you can change it around,
the
yeah.
budget that you guys decide.
Is this a locked in cost? Because I know when we started this, it's jumped up quite a bit.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not locked in. These are estimates based on our best educated guesses on bid prices. So we look at RS means and other tools that we have to estimate what contractors would bid on this type of project. But it's highly dependent on timing of bidding, general economy, fuel prices. So when you actually go out to bid in March or whenever we bid, that's.
If you guys can tell us what the economy is going to look like in March, we can tell you if it's going to go up or down.
If we apply for the block grant and get this going, what if the prices go up and we still don't have enough money?
Yeah, and that's part of why we have at least 10% contingency recommended. So the contingency funds would, if we're off a little bit on our estimates, hopefully the contingency is enough to cover that.
I've had a lot of these projects lately that have gone over budget. I've had three that went out to bid this summer, which is a terrible time to go out to bid. Haynes's water project came in under the cost estimate. Only one contractor bid on it. Nobody understands why that happened. Elgin's project was a sewer replacement project. They only had one bidder, Becker. They came in right at the budget. North Powder had a sewer project. The bid was twice as much, also from Becker, from the cost estimate. So for North Powder, we had to say, all right, we don't have the money for this. We had 1.9 million. It came out to like 3.4 just for construction. So we said, we're going to wait to bid again when there's a better bidding climate, and we're going to line up more money. So we went out and got $1 million loan, just like you guys are going to do here for the water wastewater fund. And then we're going to go out to bid in another couple of weeks, hoping that we get better bids, we get more competition. But if we don't, we've got more money so that the bid can actually be awarded. But they're also going to have to make a decision where the bids come in over, they're going to have to shrink the project down to the compliance issue, right? And they're not going to be able to replace lines in town. They're not going to be able to do some of that stuff. So it's the same situation here, really, where if we get to that point next year and the bids come in high, these guys still have ideas of stuff that we can take out.
And what we're seeing with construction prices is there's a lot of stimulus funding for infrastructure and a lot of that hasn't even been designed yet. So there's still projects out ahead that will be entering the bidding and construction phase that I think will keep prices high. Maybe even they'll keep climbing because all the contractors will be busy.
We are in an underserved area for contractors. There's just not enough contractors.
so basically though, you need right now today a blessing for putting in for the $1 million loan, correct?
Two things. These guys and me needed you guys to approve reducing the project scope to the $2.5 million idea with the 7 point whatever contingency. and also authorize to apply for a loan. You're not authorizing any rate increases. You're not agreeing to a loan right now. I seek to authorize us to put in the application. And then you will have another time when the council will actually sit down with the loan documents and make that decision, agree to raise the rates, whatever you need to pay the loan and that kind of stuff.
So that's $750,000. I just want to clarify, the city's only on the hook for half, right? Because it's a 50/50. I just want to, I don't know that anybody has said that for the camera, right? But just for the camera, I just didn't, I
Yeah.
wanted people that are watching to know that the city's not on the hook for the full 700.
375 loan, 375. It's called principal forgiveness. It's technically the whole thing's a loan, but they'll forgive the principal on half of it.
On your monthly increase, 1667. You calculated that based on how
So I
many-
just went to like a mortgage calculator, took the total loan amount, 30 years, 2.5%, and then divided it by your number of ratepayers, and then divided it by 12.
And what was the number of ratepayers you used? Ballpark.
320 maybe, somewhere 309 and 320, I think.
Okay, is that
That
accurate?
sounds accurate.
Okay.
So I think OHA has you guys at 299, thankfully, but you actually have over tax.
And then, just so I'm clear, and I apologize for being late, but let's say we do this and we get it done and we find a contractor, he comes in at budget, a lot of ifs that probably will not all place. But where does that leave us, or what do we do then to get the well? We really need a well.
Well, I think what we should do is we should start lobbying your congressman, and we should try to get some infrastructure money. You guys seem to have a lot more water system things that need to be fixed than just this tank. I mean, it seems like most of the system probably either needs to be fixed up or you need new elements. So I think we need to look for money outside of where we're looking for money now and try to get your state senators, state, House member to get you a little bit of that state money. It's flying around every year. We just need to make you guys the squeaky wheel.
Any federal money laying around?
There's
That's-
federal-
That's administered by the feds.
So what they do is, so most of the federal infrastructure money is administered by the state, and that's the stuff we're going after, but there is congressionally directed spending, which is earmarks directly from Congress. I had some luck getting that for Haynes and for a couple other projects. So that list will come out of the possible accounts that you can apply for projects in. That comes out in February or March. So next February or March, we could put together a request for a new well to replace all the main line through the campground. And that money will take 12 to 18 months. So, I mean, you're looking at 2020, the summer of 24, fall of 24, before that money would hit. So I do think it's valuable to think in that long-term way, right? To think, well, we know in 5 years, we're gonna need a well. If you think you're gonna need something in 5 years, we should start working on it now.
We needed a well yesterday. Yeah, I assume that's still accurate.
We have so little water coming out of McCullough Creek right now, and that transmission line is in such bad shape from the inlet to the highway. That is a stretch that is, I'm just pointing it out there. That is what is just in horrible shape. They must have brakes in it or whatever. We got airbag problems, and there is so little water. I would love for you guys to ride up there, go up there with us and see how much water is coming out of McCullough Creek up there right now. I mean, it's great to have great storage. We do need a new storage tank, I agree. But at the same time, if we don't have the goddamn water to fill it, what are we gonna do? And it's horrible. You gotta see what's going in there. We're running O'Farrell Creek right now at probably, we've got it maxed out, maybe 80 gallons a minute on O'Farrell Creek to keep up with what we're doing right now. It's a mess.
What's McCullough now about?
A half inch on the screen. If that, a quarter.
And
It's washing up on the screen though.
And
running 75, 80 gallons.
Yeah.
And normally it would be what?
Well, we don't get that here, but.
No, we don't get that here, but I mean.
Well, you gotta compare apples to apples. I mean,
Yeah.
normally you're more of a gets here if everything else is working.
But our transmission lines, and I don't know what's going on, we're losing water though, even in the winter time.
So-
What we should.
It needs will or won't include transmission line.
Right now, if you look at the $16 a month increase, that's to do everything. That includes, but it's not, he's talking about the water line between the highway and the inlet, which is the stuff on the Forest Service land, which when we actually talked to the Forest Service, realized how much that process, how long that was gonna take. But I see a project that is to fix this, and it's gonna take 3 years to get it through all the process. We gotta apply for loans, apply for earmarks, talk to the Forest Service, get it on their project list. They have to do their environmental process. So I would encourage you guys to start on that process now with the Forest Service, and, you know, I can help with that.
I would agree too. A lot of times we see, you know, similar systems to yours that it takes a phased project approach over, you know, many years to start chipping away at all the needs.
Well, yeah, and we've recently had experience with the Forest Service and just by going up there with it, what we thought was gonna be next to impossible has already occurred. As far as, you know, fixing that road and the brush and all that. So apparently we have somewhere we might have a guardian angel in the Forest Service. I don't know, you agree, Tim?
No, we can hope so.
But I mean, that one thing went through and we didn't really think it was gonna happen.
But that's gonna be another loan that we'll have to go out and have Nick.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we're talking about bigger picture stuff, we're talking about water supply, you know, that's gonna be a little more of a compelling project on the state or federal level to, you know, try to get you guys fixed with that kind of stuff.
If we were to go with the high price thing here, which everyone, including myself, will squawk at the increase. But that beats not being restricted from flushing your toilet. So let's say we did that. Do you foresee any other grants or loans we could get to pay that down and thereby reduce this monthly nut?
Yeah, I think there is, and I honestly think the best approach right now might be to kick out this transmission line project to later, and then combine it with the whole line all the way to the source, get the whole thing replaced, because I don't want you guys to have like 4 different loans, right? So we're already talking about, we're gonna have a loan for the water meters. And there would be a second loan to do the water main, maybe in the future, a third loan to do the Forest Service water main, and a new well. Let's combine 3 of those loans into one thing. Because if we take longer, we can get you a better deal, right? We've used up our block grant, which is our best way. We will have, cross our fingers, used up our block grant. So that's the easiest way to get a bunch of money. The rest of it's hard. It's gonna take time, it's gonna take work, it's gonna take hitting the streets, shaking the trees. It can be done. And I'm not gonna say, 90% or anything, but I'd say you got a 60% chance probably over the next 3 years to get some good chunks of money to do this work. To do a new well, to do the water main replacement. And to me, if we were to really look at this whole project, we're talking a new well, all the water line, I mean, it's probably a $6 million project. I mean, or more.
Probably, yeah,
It's a big one.
probably, yeah.
Well, the thing is though, after talking with Levi, he's our signer from Joseph. And if we put in a well, the well will be big enough, which would have to be engineered. But if the well's big enough to do what it needs to do, then actually we don't even need McCullough. We can discontinue that. And I've done a little math here and there, but because we're gonna have a power bill, because you gotta pay for the running the pump.
Right.
But the thing is though, is for our guys, with what we pay for in labor to maintain and the worries of maintaining McCullough, if we got rid of that and just had a well, then we wouldn't have to have McCully at all.
Sure.
That's kind of where I was kind of going with it, because at first we were talking about putting in a small well just to make up water, like during the summer months, because if you're gonna have McCully, you gotta run it, because you need clean water coming in the city. But we still need storage tanks, so that doesn't change. But the thing is, though, if you put the well in, then I think we could discontinue the use, because once again, and the big picture of this is if we ever had a fire up at Fort McCully, you're probably doing 2 to 3 years without water for the city of Sumpter because of all the ash that'll be in the water system. So to me, spending that kind of money to do, and if like you say right now, Nick, if you're saying we can get by with doing our meters and getting these tanks in and doing that and push aside the transition line and get rid of it, and then kind of more or less look at more eyes on the well.
I mean, as not an engineer who doesn't know any of the numbers, I like your idea. Will it work? That's a question for these guys.
Yeah, and the well, the well wasn't part of this initial project.
Right.
So I agree that, it would be a good idea to study that, come up with a, plan for how to add a well, where to add it, cost, and look at that in the big picture with.
Because it would have to be the same engineering that's doing the well as it would be to do the engineering to go from McCully to the highway,
Right.
from our inlet. So you're looking at a wash to me, because I think that your engineering side of this, you could be here in town and go, you can put the well here, this is what's gonna cost you. I mean, we got the engineering.
Yeah, I think,
We butchered it up.
that needs to be studied and investigated to determine what the cost would be and what kind of capacity, you can get out of a well or one or more wells.
Is the well, is there any way we can trade out one for another in the present program?
No, they haven't designed anything.
No.
So this is kind of the, 3-year out sort of timeline, right? Where, they would, has there even been like what's called like a feasibility study on this well? I mean, you have done no work. So first, they got to get a hydrogeologist to like study the soils and the rocks and the ground and even figure out where it could be put.
Yeah.
And then they'll do like,
Yeah, they'll pull all the well logs for the whole area. They'll look at all of that.
what's the thing you put in the ground to measure the water?
Even a
Piezometer?
Sometimes they'll drill a test well as part of the investigation or program. It just depends,
So that alone is probably what, 9 months, 12 months. just to do the well
right.
study.
Yeah, study.
So then they figure out where can the well go? Can it work? Then they have to design it. And then that's another 9 months. But it's also going to take you probably 2 years for the Forest Service to agree to anything.
Another factor is water rights, so that
Mhm.
would have to be ironed out.
I would say generally speaking though, everybody likes getting out of surface water and getting groundwater, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, the Forest Service would probably like this idea. The other state agencies would like the idea of getting you out of the creek. But I would caution you guys to give that up or not give it up because it's still there. You can still use it. if you need it, right?
So the well will have to be a next project. But today we have to decide if we're going to continue to go forward with our water
Well,
block grant.
the first thing we
And the
need to
loan.
do, is give, I guess, Andy the grant or the blessing for doing the 2.5 mil, right?
Yeah.
I guess you could call it option 8.2.
8.2, that's where we're taking the transmission line.
Yeah, basically, the base bid would include just the tank site improvements. Water meters would be pulled out of that, and it would not include the water transmission main replacement.
And then we would go to Business Oregon to do the water. meter.
Yep, to do about a $750,000 loan to do just the water meters and that's your decision. Do we do just water meters or water meter and water line replacement without that loan?
And one thing that we've done on certain similar projects is if the funding agency is okay with it, we can bid additive bid schedule. so you would get actual bid prices for those other components. It's just, we know right now that they're probably not gonna fit within that 2.5 million.
But the question of, if prices go down, we can capture some of that, where we can get more of this done than we anticipated.
So where are you guys at on this?
Well, then I make a motion that we approve 8.2 for the 2.5 million for the reduction of whatever makes it fit,
Taking out the transmission line and
meter.
And that, excuse me, that's just for tank site improvements and
a pump, a booster pump.
Right, the booster pump, an emergency generator. And it includes the tank outlet flow meter. And a pressure reducing valve. And
And the pump house stuff too?
the pump house, the pump house addition for the new pump.
but no new tank.
No, new tank.
A new tank.
Building the whole project except for the
And-
transmission and the meters.
Right.
So we have a motion to go forward with that. Do I have a second?
The base bid also includes the airbags that need replacement in town. And then what else needed?
I guess my feeling is things are only gonna get more expensive, more convoluted. And I know people are gonna squawk, but I think we go with the more all-inclusive programs. That's my personal
Okay.
opinion. So that, but whatever you decide, I will back.
So there's a,
Yeah.
I have the motion, so you want to leave everything in and go with the whole thing? So there's not a second for Charlie's motion.
I really think we ought to. You guys tell me if I'm crazy.
So you want.
Do I have to be called crazy by better people?
It's not whether you're crazy or not. I just, it's hard for me to recommend a $17 rate increase.
I know.
Right? I don't really think I would recommend because I think in the meantime, we could find more competitive loans and get you guys some extra money. Business Oregon doesn't want to make you commit to A, B, and C right now. They're willing to let you off the hook. So I feel like we could easily get another $1 million loan that would get you another 50% grant potentially, or some sort of grant. But if we go forward right now with just the water wastewater loan, you're capped yourself on possible principal forgiveness.
Okay, you're fairly sure we can get another loan.
Well, you could absolutely get another loan. It's possible that the terms will be better.
What's the interest rate?
Oh, I mean, it's all a range right now, but they're usually between 1.5% and 3% on these subsidized loans. So you'll definitely be able to get a second loan. You will maybe get a second loan that has even better terms than the first loan, but you definitely won't get any more grant money out of using that first loan for the whole thing. So there's zero chance of getting more grant money with your option.
Okay, well then I'll withdraw that.
So what you're saying, do the 2.5 and then get the small loan to do just the meters?
Mhm. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. I mean, but if you guys want to do the whole kit and caboodle, I'm not gonna, I'll do it, but it's a big lift.
What you say makes sense. If we can get half of another loan forgiven, that's money in our pocket.
I mean, I'm in the risk percentage probability world, right? Where it's like nothing's guaranteed, but you won't get a better deal if we commit to everything right now. Well, we're capping the good deal, right? We're saying it's not going to get any better than this. I like to have hope.
Okay.
And that's the strategy most systems take, is to maximize grant dollars by, phasing projects or dividing things into multiple projects.
And if it doesn't all work, I'll be showing up at your house to shower.
So again, the recommendation is to go with the 2.5, dropping out the transmission line and the meters, and then applying for a 50/50 loan with Business Oregon to do just the meters. That's.
I'll second it.
You have your motion.
Do I have a motion as its name?
You've already brought that one up.
Okay,
I'll second it, so, yes.
I guess I made the motion.
Whatever,
Okay,
I'll make the motion, second it, and vote for it.
okay, all in
Whatever you need.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then Nick, you have to find us another loan.
Yeah, hey, I mean, you know, you guys said you wanted funding for other projects. How about we just keep trying to get funding for this one?
Yeah, well, we'll finish this and then we'll go forward.
We'll have like a calm down period here at the end of this month. And part of the reason why we have to do this right now is because this application is due at the end of this month. So I have to have an answer right now to finish out this, but then we're gonna have 3 months to sit around and plan for, okay, what next? And it's, you know, you'll have $2.5 million on the line here soon, and that's not a bad place to be, so.
So now you need a vote though for us to let you go forward?
With the loan, I think you just did that. I think you did them both together.
Okay.
Linda did it all in the same motion.
I did all this. So in
wanted to make sure.
October, when things slow down, you'd be willing to come back to a meeting?
Yeah, let's in October talk about the sewer project, talk about
Yeah.
Forest Service main line, the well, and all of the other projects you guys have.
I have a question for the engineer. The well, what kind of gallonage are we looking at that we would probably need? I know you haven't studied it.
Yeah, the average day demand, I think, is, what is it, around 280?
Yeah.
But typically, you know, for a water supply, you have to at least provide for your maximum day demand. And then, you know, you also have to be able to supply peak hour demand when, you know, the peak times of when people are using the
Well, how
water.
many GPM?
And so we're talking, I think,
200.
200 to 300 per peak
250.
demand, yeah.
250, keep us,
So right now you got 150 maybe?
Maybe, yeah, with the booster load.
And so
Well,
some
which
areas
we
can
gained,
easily
a lot of people weren't telling you, because we gained 60 gallons a minute when we took out the redwood tank. I don't care how you look at it, because a lot of people don't remember that,
Uh-huh.
because when you're leaking 60 gallons a minute, it takes a whole lot less water to run the city.
Right.
Mhm.
And after this project, you'll have an outlet flow meter, so you'll know, you know, all the time how much water is being used by the whole system.
You'll also be able to tell how much is leaking out of that main.
Yep. How, this is a big kind of an esoteric question. The cost of transporting water effectively to a pipeline. Like for a couple of miles. Can you compare that to the cost of drilling a well to provide the water for that?
Well, if you're talking about replacement of the main line, yeah, I mean, we could estimate, you know, the highway portion alone is about 500,000 to 600,000 along the highway, and I think that length is about 4,200 feet.
4,200 feet.
So, you know, a mile is, you know, around 700,000 or something like that. It might, once we get into the, off of the highway, the cost may be a little bit lower, but
That could definitely be part of the analysis they would do in this feasibility study
Right.
to show you the operation, maintenance, and replacement costs for the system you're running now versus the new system with a well.
I ran the well logs for this area, and I think I emailed it to you, didn't I?
No, you didn't.
I thought it did, anyway. And there are a couple of really good wells that perhaps the property could be purchased and then a pipe put in. I don't know if that's effective or not, but the wells there, it's proven. And a couple of them were like at 100 GPM.
yeah, that might be something to look at. And also water quality is something that would need to be studied to make sure that, you know, it would meet all the drinking water rule requirements for municipal, drinking water source.
I can't imagine the groundwater would be worse than their surface water and all the treatment they have, but I guess you
Yeah,
never
it
know. what's
probably
in there, huh?
wouldn't, but sometimes groundwater has arsenic or nitrates or other things that have.
Our
to be
groundwater up
addressed.
here is highly in iron.
Oh,
Highly
okay.
in iron.
A lot of iron.
So iron could be a concern, but there's ways to treat for iron. You can filter iron out.
But there are different substrata where the iron is not bad at all.
And that could be the case too, drilling down to a deeper aquifer may have different water quality. And that's why it really needs to be studied by a hydrogeologist that, knows wells inside and out.
Yeah, that and plus the distance from the well to deliver it, that cost to the pipeline to connect the well to
Mhm.
the city.
Right. Yeah, I'm just looking for a break-even point, I guess, between going up right next to the tank and poking a hole in the ground.
Mhm.
I think our best bet would be the fairgrounds, virgin ground out there, the fairgrounds, and then just tie right into our 6-inch main line.
And that's what Levi, he mentioned that too, because he said we can put in a direct chlorine injector out there to where it can be treated right there, it goes right into the main line. Because my thought was to put the well out there, because one is flat ground, and then turn around and just pipe it directly into our tank above. But Levi was saying we wouldn't have to. He said if you put it into the system, and he says, and right now, he says you probably can use anywhere from 60 to 80 gallons a minute. He says, because if you have 60 to 80 gallons a minute, anything that you're not using in the city would go to your storage tank.
Right.
So he says, because you're still using your storage tanks as water as well. But he says during the nighttime, because the pump would run 24/7. So when things are slow, you still would have, and he said, right now, he said a 60 to 80 gallon minute pump, he said would be ideal. He says, that'll get you through. And he says, naturally, the more water we got, the better off we're on.
Yeah, we'll have to just work at getting another grant to go.
Oh,
We can do the study first. I mean, I think getting the money for the study.
Oh,
first.
another thing, I asked Business Oregon, you guys had a max of 750,000 that you could get from the emergency fund, and you only got about 500,000. So I asked him, hey, can you kick in another 250? Probably no, but we'll see. So that would like get our contingency whole, and then we can get
Yeah.
more money from this round. They just said it's all spoken for now, so. Well, if they lose a project somewhere in the next couple months, they might be able to give us another 100,000-200,000, but no promises.
Thanks, I'll answer all your questions on this
we're
project.
rolling,
Okay,
make it happen.
do I have a motion to?
I make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second, all in favor? Thank you, guys, for.
Yeah, thank you.
Talk, so, yeah, reading all this, it makes it so much better when you're actually here and we can bounce things off of you.
Oh, I understand, especially when it's a big decision like this one.
Yeah, well, money.
Yeah, totally understand.